I'm Connie Frisbee Houde from the New York State Museum. I'm the curator of the Clothing and Textile collection, and today I'm going to talk about caring for clothing and textiles. Here at the museum, we are custodians of these items, and so we work very hard to try and keep them as well as we can. So the environment is one of the biggest things that can affect how one cares for one's collection. So climate control, we try here to keep it, the relative humidity and the temperatures at a steady amount. High fluctuations from heat or cold, the textile fibers expand and contract, and that can affect them a great deal. And moisture also it can affect, so that you can wind up with mold on pieces, and that's something that you really want to avoid as much as possible. So you want a stable environment for what things are going to be stored in. So one of the biggest problems with textiles is light and the effect that light has on it. So I've got a piece here that it was purchased specifically to be put out on exhibition for the long run. And you can look at this, and hopefully you can see it, but it is faded here. The back side is much brighter. The inside is much brighter. This is the original color. Because this was out under light for so long, it broke down the colors, and so it's faded. So with framed textiles, if you have like a sampler or something like that, this is a sampler in our collection, and it's one way that we have stored them. You can see that it has a mat, and it's covered, but we can see it, which makes it really nice. We don't have to handle it a whole lot. It's also mounted on a piece of probably foam core so that it's soft. And if you are framing something like this at home, you want to have space between the item and the glass, which is the reason for a mat such as this. Because if the object is right against the glass and you have any moisture in your household, it can do what's called wicking and create mold on the textile. So you want to avoid that as much as possible. One of the other problems with textiles is many of the things that we often acquire have either been stored in attics or basements, and they're often quite dirty. But we don't want to, quote unquote, wash everything, because some things just can't take that, and we don't have the facilities to do that here. So one of the best things when you have something that you find in your own collection, in your own house, or that we get here, is that we vacuum these pieces. Say this piece that we're looking at right here, you get a piece of fiberglass screening, cover the edges so that you don't have any sharp points, and then you place that over the textile and vacuum. Now, you don't want the floor vacuum. You want a vacuum that has a nozzle and a hose, and hopefully something that you can regulate the amount of suction. And you want to lower the suction so you're not sucking the item into the vacuum, which is one reason for the screening, because that helps prevent that. This is a kit that is quite useful, that can be attached to the hose on a vacuum cleaner, and it has all kinds of little small nozzles that makes it a lot easier to get into the folds of a garment. You want to vacuum it both inside and outside, and you'll be amazed at how much just vacuuming an item will help. If you do decide that you want to try and wash something, or as we refer to it, wet clean it, you have to be really sure that it is sturdy and strong. And I really don't recommend doing this unless you have some skill with it, because it could very easily just turn into a pile of scraps when you wash it. And if it's something very precious to you, you don't want to have that happen. One of the other problems with collection items are insects. Mice can get into collections and create nests. They love to pull things apart and use that for a nest. You have moths that will cause damage. And this piece I have out because it does have moth damage. This is a needlepoint, and it's wool. The yarn is wool. And here where you can see the losses, that is probably moths chewed through that and ate the fibers. You'll find moth damage on clothing. This is a piece here that we have exhibited, but this is holes here from moth damage. If you're storing sweaters and things like that away for the winter, it used to be that you would use mothballs. Mothballs kill brain cells, so I don't suggest using mothballs anymore. One of the best things is to put your sweaters away clean, because the critters like to eat the dirt, the fibers that are covered with dirt or perspiration or that kind of thing. So if you put them away clean, you have a better chance of not having any problem. And you want to check them every 3 or 4 months or so. You don't want to just put them away and leave them there for 6 months, a year, 2 years without looking at them, because that could be where you wind up with a big problem. So another thing in terms of storage of textiles, here at the museum, it takes a lot of space for storage. You don't just stuff something in a box. We do hanging storage for things that can handle the hanging. We have plastic hangers that are inert, but we still cover them with a cotton stockinette that helps the garment not slide off the hanger, and it acts as a barrier in between the plastic. But these are inert plastic, so we can get away with that. We also do have some wooden hangers that are then covered with a fiber fill and then covered with the stockinette. And what this does is it creates a soft area for the garment to go over around its base rather than on a wire hanger. It will bend and often break the fibers right at the shoulder. What you have to be careful with some of these hangers is that they're not too long so that it doesn't push out the sleeve area. We also deal with accessories, fans, hair combs, jewelry. And this is one way of storing something like that. It's on a cushion so that it won't get broken, and you can see it, and then nothing gets placed on top of it when it's in storage. Flat textiles such as handkerchiefs, scarves, table napkins, flags. The way that we deal with that is we roll them if we can. There's a stiff roll inside here, and then the textiles rolled around that, and then it's covered with acid-free tissue and goes from there. Now, one of the problems with something like this is you can't see what's inside here. So some places use a mylar around the outside so that you can still see what's in it. But everything we have in the collection has a number, and it tells what it is on the outside. We have a catalog database and look things up that way. But if you are a collector and have a lot of material, you may really want to record where you found it and any family history, because who knows, your children may not remember the stories that you tell them. So it would be nice to write these things down. Bonnets and hats. We had a group of people at one point who made these really nice forms for us to store something on. The ribbons have been rolled around, again, a stiff piece so that there's no folds in it. And textiles themselves can be stored in a box. This is an acid-free box. They can be purchased from library supply places like Gaylord. You want to use acid-free tissue because it's the acid in the paper and the acid in wood, say in a wood drawer, that will transfer to the object stored in the drawer. So you may pull some things out of old drawers and you'll see this brown coloring on them. That's the transference of the acid from the wood in the drawer into the textile itself. So you want to prevent that as much as possible. If you don't have the resources to buy acid-free tissue and boxes and those kinds of things, you can use old sheets as long as they have not been washed in bleach, because the chemicals in the bleach will also work on breaking down the textiles. But you can line drawers with old sheets and then periodically wash the sheets in just plain water, and that can also work. But when you store things in a box such as this, you want to, if you do have to fold them, wad up some tissue or something like this in where the fold is so that it doesn't create a crease, because it's the creases that would be where the fabric would start to break down first. A dress itself, you can stuff out the sleeves, you can stuff out the body so that it doesn't get so wrinkled just being stuffed into a box. So it's been my pleasure to show you today some very simple things that you can do with your own pieces in your collection. Again, my name is Connie Frisbee Houde. I'm the curator of the Clothing and Textile Collection here at the New York State Museum. You can go to our website if you have questions and contact me, and I'd be more than happy to assist in any way that you might need. And I hope you have fun with preserving your pieces for your family. They may not be interested now, but who knows, 10 years from now, they may go, gee, Grandma, what happened to that? So hopefully it's been preserved so that they can find it in the future. Thank you very much for listening.